Welcome to the Dispatch. You're listening to a primer on Jammu and Kashmir. In episode 41, we bring to you the story of chaos and confusion when tribesmen from Pakistan attacked Jammu and Kashmir in 1947.
When tribal forces entered Jammu and Kashmir in October 1947, the state was already under severe strain. Partition had unsettled every frontier. The administration was thinly stretched, communications were unstable, and political uncertainty hung over the princely state's future. In this environment, Maharaja Hari Singh faced pressures unlike any encountered by a Dogra ruler before him. An escalating external assault, local unrest in parts of Jammu province, and the unresolved question of accession. His eventual decision on the 26th of October emerged from this dense and fast-moving crisis. The weeks following 15th August had left the state in an ambiguous position. The Maharaja had not acceded to either dominion and sought instead to retain maximum autonomy while assessing options. A standstill agreement with Pakistan maintained basic administrative arrangements, but relations deteriorated quickly. Disruptions to transport, postal links, and supplies increased through September, and reports from the western districts indicated growing tension. The valley remained relatively calm, but the administration was conscious that the release of Sheikh Abdullah had become a political necessity, even as it hesitated to act. Meanwhile, the situation in Poonch had worsened. Agitations there, rooted in wartime taxation and dissatisfaction among recently demobilized soldiers, became increasingly difficult to contain. Sections of the region drifted beyond effective state control, and armed groups began to move freely across a rugged landscape. The Maharaja's forces, limited in number and dispersed across a vast territory, struggled to restore order. Far from Srinagar, these developments hinted at vulnerabilities that would become decisive when the invasion began. Against this background, the news that large tribal lashkars had crossed into the state arrived as a shock, but not a complete surprise. Initial reports spoke of armed groups entering through Muzaffarabad, overwhelming small detachments of the state forces and advancing rapidly along the main road to the valley. As information from refugees and surviving soldiers reached Srinagar, it became clear that the raiders' numbers were substantial and that discipline among them had already broken down. The fall of Muzaffarabad, the destruction in Baramulla, and the speed of the advance made the scale of the crisis unmistakable. Inside the government, the sense of isolation deepened. Communications with some western districts collapsed, military reinforcements were not available, and panic began to spread in the valley. Senior officials argued that without immediate external assistance, the defense of Srinagar would not hold. The Maharaja and his advisors now faced a situation in which neutrality or delay was no longer tenable. The state's forces could not repulse the tribal advance, and the capital itself appeared at risk. In this crisis, Hari Singh confronted a narrow range of choices. Pakistan had not offered formal military assistance, and the tribal invasion had eroded any confidence the state might have had in relying on the standstill agreement. India insisted that full-scale military help required accession in accordance with the constitutional norms applied to every princely state. The Maharaja's hesitation over the previous 2 months had been shaped by a desire to preserve autonomy and by political caution. The events of October now left him with a far starker calculation: accession to India or the imminent collapse of the state apparatus. Sheikh Abdullah's release at this juncture was both pragmatic and unavoidable. His leadership was essential for maintaining civilian order in the valley, and the National Conference's cooperation was crucial if outside forces were to operate effectively. Once freed, Abdullah mobilized volunteers, reassured the population, and communicated directly with Indian leaders, reinforcing the argument that accession was now a practical necessity. By the time senior representatives from Delhi reached Jammu, the situation had sharpened into a simple, urgent demand. Without immediate military support, Srinagar could fall. Hari Singh, confronted by the collapse of frontier defenses and the threat to his capital, agreed to sign the instrument of accession on the 26th of October 1947. His decision was formally accepted the next day, and Indian troops were airlifted to Srinagar to secure the city and begin pushing back the invading forces. The Maharaja's choice, made under exceptional pressure, brought an end to the uncertainty that had marked the months since August. The tribal raid had turned a constitutional question into an existential crisis. With the signing of the instrument of accession, Jammu and Kashmir entered a new political framework, and the urgent task of defending the state shifted to a combined effort of the Indian Army, the state's administration, and the National Conference.
Thanks for watching this episode of Primer on Jammu and Kashmir. Here is a quick note from the editors of the Dispatch. While dealing with historical events, we are conscious of the fact that history has no single view. In places like Jammu and Kashmir, this can be more complicated. While explaining the events of history through this primer, we are taking the best possible care to be objective and to offer context wherever views differ starkly. We welcome you to write to us and enrich the knowledge base on Jammu and Kashmir.